Hey everybody, I'm Johnny. I'm here with Crystal, aka CryCi the Doula.
Hey y'all, hey.
This month is Black History Month, and I thought about who is doing things for wellness, for the community, who is the epitome of a Black woman. It's amazing, beautiful.
Try.
All of that. And I thought of my girl, Crystal, who I've known since like elementary school.
Yeah, we go way back.
We go way back. Let's start there. What was growing up in Stockton like for you?
Oh my goodness, it was a lot of fun. You know what, honestly, I can say that I had some really good times in Stockton, and it sucks because it's not the same anymore. And we didn't have a whole lot either when we were growing up, but when you think back, it was like, dang, we had the skating ring, we had
Hammer skate,
a bunch of movie theaters, we had Naughty Nicks, we had Whimsies. Like, these kids don't have anything. We had Golfland.
Golfland, oh my God.
We had the little water slide. It was only like 2 water slides, but they were legit. Like, it was enough for us. There's nothing like that in Stockton anymore. That sucks.
Absolutely.
I wish my kids could experience that.
Okay, so talking about Stockton, what is one misconception about Stockton?
I don't particularly like the nickname Mudville.
Ooh, tell me about that.
I mean, it's a little grimy. It has its parts, but Stockton is really beautiful.
Absolutely.
Like, I even noticed some of your work, some of your photography.
Thank you.
And I'm like, I didn't even know that existed. Like,
where is that?
Where's that at? Because like I didn't even know, but it's amazing to have photographers like you in Stockton, especially natives, because you know where the nooks and crannies are, and it's like, this is what my city is. This is the representation of my city. Like Mudville, like we ain't that dirty. We ain't that dirty. Like it get real out here, but it's beauty in this city, and that's a lot of the reason what keeps me here. This is my heart. This is my home. And before I take off anywhere else to take my family to see more than just Stockton, I want to make sure that I take care of home first.
Yes.
It's priority.
What I love about Stockton is the people like you.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're right. When you hear muddy, you're thinking like shady, dirty, whatever. In any place you'll find that, but I don't think that describes the people that I love who live here, the people who I've met here, people I've worked with. So I absolutely agree with you that community is super important, and that is not the right word to describe us. And speaking of growing up in Stockton, what were some health or wellness challenges that you experienced growing up? Has those challenges changed the way or influenced how you do the work that you do now today?
Absolutely. Growing up in Stockton as a little Black girl, Stockton is well diverse for the most part, and I know that it became more diverse when we were growing up, and then it's even more diverse now. But we didn't really have access, or we didn't know about, I should say that, we didn't know about the resources that we had to wellness centers, to food banks, or we didn't know that we had farmers markets in different areas. Like we only knew about the one farmers market that was outside of the mall and everyone would go on Sundays, but there's actually more farmers markets throughout the week.
The city.
Throughout the city.
Absolutely.
So it's just learning about your resources that I didn't really come to realize until I became an adult.
That's crazy, because same, like I know about these resources because it's literally my job to tell people, here's the farmers markets, you need rent assistance, here's a program. What the hell? Where was all that? So absolutely, I think access to resources. The resources have been there, but not enough. And then we didn't even know that it existed. Like, nutrition, what the hell is that? Like, and now I try to make sure that I eat, there's vegetables, and I'm getting fruit throughout the day.
Absolutely.
Drinking water. Like we ate what was there.
Right.
You know, that juice that's like all sugar and food coloring, that's 50 cents or whatever.
Sugar.
Yeah, that's what we drank because we thought that's what we're supposed to drink.
Right.
That's the food that was in our neighborhoods. That was what was affordable. So we thought, like, that's what you're supposed to eat. That's what you're supposed to drink. You can have a little bit, like live your life, but we want to make it through. Make sure you're here for your kids and your family. Your family cannot thrive without you.
Listen. I don't want to toot my own horn, but
look,
I'm noticing that too. The older that I'm becoming and building my own family, I'm like, man, I got to make sure that I'm healthy, physically, spiritually, financially. I have to make sure that I'm healthy, because in days, and I'm human, and there are days where I'm just like mentally drained, and I don't want to come out of the shell that I've created for myself. But then, like, I look at my kids and I look at my household dynamic, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you guys really aren't functioning if I'm not functioning. Let me get my life together.
And that's fair, and that's a lot of responsibility to be like, oh, everything falls apart if mama don't do her part. But the thing is, you deserve breaks too. You deserve your
I try.
girls' night out. You deserve mommy daddy days. You deserve all of that. It's, if you don't have what you need, you can't give that to your kids and your husband.
Absolutely. I can't fill anyone else's cup if mine is like cut and dry. It's getting slim.
Many Black women specifically are more likely to suffer complications from childbirth in the current medical world. How are doulas changing the game and combating injustices of the medical world? Because I've heard some stories.
Woo!
But I'm not a Black woman. You are. You're the doula here.
What a doula is everything that you just said. A doula is someone who has been trained on medical terminology, has been trained on the physical body of the woman and anatomy of the woman, about breastfeeding and your hormones and how your body reacts to just everyday living, really. But we're not there to take the place of any medical staff. We don't take the place of nurses. We don't take the place of doctors or midwives. But we're also not just guests. We're not just, someone who's just coming to visit. No, we provide the families with evidence-based assistance. So, and what evidence-based is anything that's been tested and said and came out with positive results. So a doula is there to make sure that you are provided with comfort, empowerment to advocate for yourself, because there's a lot of new time parents who they don't know what the heck to do. I know I was one of those parents.
Right.
Me and my significant other, I thought that I was going to be able to have a natural vaginal delivery, but things change. I feel like had I had a doula, I probably would have been able to see out my birth plan, which wasn't really anything. Now that I'm in the work and I see like the details of a birth plan, I think every family needs one of those. Every family needs a birth plan. A birth plan is typically when you can get yourself a birthing team, a midwife, a doula, or just information that you can gather with just your partner alone, and you create the type of scene that you want your birthing experience to be like from start to finish.
And I was going to ask, and I think you kind of answered it, why is it so important for women to speak up about their needs in the hospital when they're giving birth? And the doula is an advocate, is what you're telling me.
Well, a doula,
More
yes,
than that, but
a doula is more than an advocate. Really, what a doula is a person who's going to remind you to advocate really for yourself, especially now because with COVID, there's a lot of restrictions, and doulas sometimes aren't even able to be in the room with the birthing family. So a lot of my work really has been virtual. They'll call me up, video chat, but it's just the comfort of me being there. Like I had a mom who we stayed on video chat the entire time she was in her labor and delivery. And some moms, they get tired. Oh, I'll call you back. Or let me take a nap, I'll call you back. This mom literally had me on video chat for the entire time. She made sure she had chargers. She made sure she had snacks, her husband's phone, the tablet, everything she needed, because it's like, she's like, I don't want to forget to advocate for myself. What we're trained as doulas, what sticks in our heads is BRAIN, and it's an acronym, and it stands for benefits, risks, alternatives, intuition, and nothing at all. So when we're face to face with a birthing family, and we always let them know, as a birthing family, you have rights. Right. And hospital policy is not law. Like, your rights as a birthing family is law. And a lot of times they're unaware. I wasn't even aware when I was having my first child 10 years ago, and there's just things that I wish I had knew about. So when they're faced with a question, or when they're faced with a dilemma, and they're not really understanding what medical staff is telling them, what we do as birth workers or as doulas is we remind them, use your brain. Yes. Ask the medical staff, what are the benefits of this procedure? What are the risks of this procedure? What are some alternatives if I feel uneasy? And then I trust your intuition, trust your gut. 9 times out of 10, a woman's intuition is telling her some good. It's telling her
it.
some good,
Say
right?
it.
You know, like don't ever doubt your intuition, ladies. Don't ever doubt your intuition, ladies. And then finally, you know, the letter N. What happens if I do nothing at all? And these are all questions that you have the right to ask medical staff, and they are supposed to provide you with clear answers. And you can keep asking these questions until you get a clear understanding before you make your next decision.
I think that's very important because people don't realize no one is going to advocate for you the way that you have to advocate for you.
For yourself.
Even if it's your partner, your husband, I know sometimes they're not even allowed in the room with you.
Right.
And even if they are, they don't know what the hell to do or how to help you. So another woman who's done it, who's been a part of it, who's experienced and knowledgeable, I do believe that support is necessary for some. Like you said, you can know everything and then you forget it all because you got hormones and there's things going on.
Everything
and you
is imbalanced.
Your body is doing all kinds of things. So I love that. I love that support that you're able to give because those are scary times, especially for new moms, or even if it's not. Maybe some people are having birth later in life, and they don't. That's also scary. I mean, I don't know, but I want to understand.
No,
that,
you're hitting
that
it
help
spot
is needed.
on.
You know that, and it's available. More importantly, yeah.
So it is becoming more available now. I didn't realize that getting into this field, I thought I was like a newbie, and I come to realize that there really is still room on one hand on how many Black birth workers there are in San Joaquin County.
Really?
There's legit only one Black lactation consultant in San Joaquin County, and she's been the only Black lactation consultant in San Joaquin County for at least 10 years because she helped me 10 years ago with my son. And she's actually my mentor and like has really been holding my hand throughout my entire journey with this. Like come on, get on board.
Yeah, shout out to her. She's like, I'm not trying to be alone in this.
Shout out to Tamisha Valverde, who is my mentor, who is San Joaquin County's only Black lactation consultant. For now.
Yeah, for now. That's right. That's right. Yeah, and that's why representation matters. I was looking for a therapist a few months, and I'm like, I just want someone Asian, queer. I'm like, they don't exist, or they're not taking no more clients because no one else is there. No, there are so few people who identify with your experiences, and we often feel alone, and that there's no one to help. There's nothing you can do. Right. But you got to keep looking, and sometimes you got to be that person for somebody else.
Absolutely.
You know,
that's what it is, and that's really what drove me to go hard for birth work. Like, there was no representation. Like I said, 10 years ago when I needed lactation support, well, almost 10 years, my son will be 10 in a few months. When I needed lactation support, she was the only one, and she's still the only one. Wow. And now me and my other birth worker, my other cohort members of the birth worker cohort through Flourishing Families, we are up and coming, but she's still the only Black lactation consultant in San Joaquin County. So there's certain things and certain help that we can assist with being lactation counselors or advocates, but as far as she can give a little bit more, she's kind of higher up. And so for that representation to not be in Stockton for so long, and it's still dry, like there's still not a lot of Black birth work support in San Joaquin County. So as I said earlier, before I make any drastic moves and try to take my kids off to another country and see the world, I have to take care of home. I have to take care of Stockton. I have to at least let Stockton know that these resources are here for you. There are birth workers and there are rights that are here for you. There's representation for you here. Yes. But we have to wake our game up. That's right. And like you said, don't stop searching.
And this is part of the resources that we're talking about that maybe people don't know about. That's why we're here in this video. That's why you're watching this. You need to know.
You need to know these things.
I think we kind of lightly touched on it, but what inspired you to become a doula, and what are some of your services that you offer?
So what inspired me to become a doula was lack of representation in San Joaquin County. When I was having my first child nearly 10 years ago, there wasn't help that represented me. There wasn't much, there weren't too many Black midwives or Black OBG doctors, or like I said, there was only, and is still only, one Black lactation consultant in San Joaquin County. And I knew from the beginning of even thinking about becoming a mom, I knew I wanted to breastfeed. I knew that breastfeeding was beneficial, way more beneficial than formula feeding. And I know like a lot of people was just like, oh, just feed your baby. And that's cool, to each its own. I knew I wanted to breastfeed, and I knew that I wouldn't stop. And it was a struggle. It was a struggle. Let me tell you, I'm not trying to scare anybody off, but breastfeeding is a challenge, especially for new moms. And then in the Black community, there's so much stigma around why we used to breastfeed. We used to be wet nurses. We used to breastfeed the entire nation. But because of the trauma that came with that, we kind of backed away from breastfeeding our own children. Like, we literally had to breastfeed slave masters' babies before breastfeeding our own. And so our babies were not getting adequate nutrients because we had to breastfeed the white babies first. And then our babies were dying.
That's a damn shame.
And so that's trauma after trauma, and that's history. And so it's like, well, we don't even want to breastfeed, and that's intergenerational trauma. We don't even want to breastfeed no more. Just give our babies formula just so that they stay fed, just so that my baby can live.
That's heavy.
It's real heavy.
I don't breastfeed, but I can tell you there are things that my parents and their parents that they experience, and I'm like, oh damn, that's why I am the way that I am.
Right.
And you don't even realize it till you're grown and you're having your own experiences.
The connections.
Like, oh shit, like regardless of what I do, like I have to break this cycle so my kids.
You have to be the person who is breaking the generational curses, and it just one stride at a time. Like, you don't have to break them all, and you don't have to break them perfectly either, but one step at a time. We have to be the people that give back to our home and our community.
Absolutely.
And so I knew that I wanted to breastfeed, and I knew that there was like stigmas, and I knew that I didn't come from a background of women who breastfed. I came from a background of women who, nope, give the baby some formula, just so long as they're fed. We gotta go back and work, because now where the women want to do everything the men do, which is totally fine, but now you're not able to be at home and take care of your baby, so you have to do formula. You can't be at home for that long. You have to go and work. But then our men are dying in the streets. So now you are legit the sole provider as a Black woman, which happened a lot in my household. Or it was just a two-parent household where now we have to find childcare. And so just breastfeeding wasn't really represented the way that I needed it to be represented growing up, but I knew that I wanted to breastfeed. I knew that that was going to be beneficial for both me and my baby. And so when I was introduced to Tamisha Valverde, and we pretty much became like sisters, and I had a conversation with her, and she was like, yeah, I'm the only Black lactation consultant here in San Joaquin County. And the conversation went on, and I was like, wait, what? You're the only Black lactation consultant in San Joaquin County? The only one? And she was like, yeah. And so I looked at her and I was like, how do I do what you do? Like, I always knew from growing up when we were kids, I always knew that I wanted to work with babies and work with families. I just didn't really know how then. At the time, I was still going to school for my degree in early childhood education. So I knew I wanted to work with kids. I just didn't know to what degree that was going to entail. And now here I am working with babies all day long. Yeah. But that was the spark of what inspired me to become a birth worker or a doula. And so then I began staying really close with her, going to La Leche League meetings, which are a bunch of women who breastfeed, and like, you pretty much can just go in there and lay it all out on the table about your breastfeeding traumas and dramas.
Hey, we need that support.
Yeah, and it's good to have that support, and it's good to have those spaces where you can feel free and vulnerable and talk about your day, or talk about your breastfeeding journey, or talk about your spouse if you need to, or whatever it is.
Vent.
And vent.
It's a safe space.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that was the spark of that. And then, it took me a while because I kept having kids in between my education.
You were really learning.
Right, I was really learning as I was going.
In real life.
But then my baby hit a year and a half, and I really was like, I need to focus. I need to do what I need to do. I need to go back to school. I need to stop playing. I'm not having no more kids. I already knew I was done. Like, 3 that's a really great number. Like, it's a really significant number for me. So I stopped at 3, and like I said, when my baby hit 2, I went full force into my education, learning what I needed to learn about, like I said, a woman's anatomy, a woman's body, her hormones that she goes through, throughout her pregnancy, or just in life in general, even learning from little girls on up about, you know, your periods and the hormones that that are going through your body as your body is growing from a child on up. And then so here I am, and I'm still learning. There's still some things that are just like mind-blowing to me as I get really deep into birth work, especially Black birth work, because it's like, dang, that intergenerational trauma is real.
So real. Well, like I said, I was gonna ask you, like, oh, why are you so big on breastfeeding? So when you explained that, I'm like, ooh, like I said, I don't have those connections, but I do have my own family ties. So like, instantly hit me. I'm like, shit, there are things in my life, but when I'm like, I feel so passionate and strongly about holding on to my, like, I'm not traditional, but there's certain things that I hold on to.
Yeah,
so dearly,
you gotta hold on to some tradition.
Because other people like are just letting it go, and they're
losing their way.
They're losing their way. They're losing our culture. We're losing our. I'm holding on. And something that you really inspired me about is that you continue to learn. I see you as a lifelong learner. You prioritize your education and being skilled and experienced. And I think, you know, people are like, oh, I'm grown. I don't need, like, and you can still learn, you know.
Absolutely.
We can be grown and making mistakes every day. So I'm like, there's nothing wrong with learning.
When I went back to college and I sat right next to a woman who was like my mother's age, and she was like, I just come just for the refresher. Like, if you don't use it, you lose it. And I was like, damn. She right. I've never been the person to where I have all the answers and I know everything. Never. There's always a new way, and I'm always willing to learn it, except for the way that these kids learn math these days. I just can't fucking
look. Okay, when I work with kids,
that's the only thing I'm not interested in relearning.
I can help you with a lot, but this backwards algebra stuff, that's not for me. I didn't learn it that way.
I didn't like the frontwards algebra when I was learning. Like, this is not okay. We are stressed out. That pandemic really had us all messed up. Woo, that's the only. I'm telling you, that's the only thing I'm not really interested in relearning. Cause
no, thank you. Y'all can keep that.
Y'all can keep that.
You said you have 3 kids.
I have 3 children. My son, who is the first born in April, he will be 10 this year. I have another child, my second child, who was also born in April. She will be 8 this year. And then my last baby, she just turned 6 in January.
So tell me, with those 3 babies, what has been the most rewarding part of being a mom to those 3 babies?
Oh my gosh. The way that they love me. Like, ooh, don't have me up here all.
Okay, you gotta explain.
The way that they love me is like so unconditional, and it's like a love that I never thought that I would experience. Granted, you know, I have a huge family. I know my parents love me. I've been with their father since high school. And, you know, it's like the things that you think are real love, which they are very real, but it's the connection that I have with my children is just like out of this world. And even in times where I feel like I am a terrible mother, like, and it's natural to feel that way. It's not like you're doing anything wrong. It's just like maybe not making time in the day, or maybe not making their favorite meal, or maybe not buying their favorite book when they're asking for it. But just, and then you sit back and those things like, dang, like I really could have done it, or I really should have done it. But they don't care. Yeah. They still love me.
They love you anyway.
They still will hug me and kiss me goodnight, and, you know, wake up the next morning like, good morning, Mom, I love you, and all on their ways to school. And it's like, it just melts my heart. Like, it doesn't matter. It in their eyes, I could do no wrong. I could do no wrong. And I remember I was scrolling through social media, breastfeeding my son at the time, and I came across, I was following all these mothers' blogs or whatever, and there was a post that said, to the world, she's one person, but to one person, she's the world. And my emotional ass breastfeeding, I'm crying like, oh my God, I really mean the world to my son. At the time, he was the only one.
I love that.
But it stuck with me, and I'm like, and then that's where it's like, earlier when we spoke of like, I have to make sure that I'm okay for them to be okay, because they feel everything. They feel everything I feel. That was one thing that my dad instilled in me through each of my pregnancies. He was like, you can't be too emotional. You can't, okay, like you take a minute and you go be upset, or you take a minute and you go be sad, because you can't continue on with that. You can't carry that because you're carrying a baby. who's going to then carry that. And then so I would.
That's interesting. A man told you that, first of all.
My dad is so amazing.
It's very empathetic. I love that.
He's so amazing. Like there's things that he's just a dope ass dude. Shout out to my dad.
Hey,
shout out to both my parents, but shout out to my dad. Like he's dope.
I love that. Okay, that's cute and all. But what is the most challenging thing about being a mom?
Oh.
I just want to see the other side, you know.
I told you. Sometimes I just be going. I just let the wind take me some days. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I pray to the Most High. Like I know you're carrying me because I don't know what I'm doing. And that's one thing that a lot of parents say that they wish they had, like guidance or like some type of manual, but even if you were provided with a manual, even if you had someone holding your hand the entire time through your parenting, you have to, it's just what you have to learn on your own. And that goes back to, and you will.
Naturally.
Yeah, it comes to you naturally. And there are some things that you pick up from parenting skills, your own parents or whoever it was that raised you. You pick
and what
those
you don't
things
like.
up,
yeah.
right?
You pick what works for your family
and what you
does
don't
not.
like. And that's all that really matters. And like we got back to a minute ago, we were talking about, you know, tradition. People are like losing their way of tradition and wanting to start new traditions and get rid of the old traditions, but some of those old traditions kind of need to stay.
I agree.
You can tweak it.
I never thought I would agree with that, but I agree.
But the foundation of that tradition.
You don't want to lose your family and your new family. You want to combine them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the combination. So, what challenges I have is just making sure that my kids have that perfect blend. And what helps is that their father and I grew up here in Stockton, and so we can both remember a time when Stockton was like marvelous and it was all blue skies and sunshines, and now it is kind of gloomy and there's not much to do for the kids, but we do try to make sure that they go to those nooks and crannies where the light is like really shining and pure in those areas of Stockton. So the challenge is making sure that we have a perfect blend of his own family traditions and history and my own family traditions and history, and making it that perfect blend. Every day is not easy. I'm just gonna say that. It's not easy, it's not a walk in the park, but as long as you have the support, either it be from your significant other or your family, and then also making sure that you set boundaries. That's my word of the year, y'all. I just got into representing or making sure that I pick a word for the year and stick to it. Ooh, and so this year is my first year really, like my theme for the year is my first year really partaking, and boundaries is the word that just, it keeps sticking to me, and they're necessary. They're necessary in friendships, partnerships,
family, parents, work, everywhere.
Work
yourself.
You have to be respectful of your own boundaries.
And everybody's taking like, why the hell am I giving everything to everyone except myself?
So boundaries is my year. So definitely make sure that you set certain boundaries when it comes to being a parent. That's a challenge. That's probably my biggest challenge.
I think that's a lot.
I probably just said a whole bunch and just needed to remember my word of 2022. Right. My boundaries is probably my biggest challenge. Respecting my own boundaries has been my biggest challenge in parenting.
Because you know who you are. You know what you want to do. But you also know what you need, which sometimes is like all the way back here. You're like, you can't do what you want to do if you don't have what you need, right?
Absolutely.
I'm also really big on boundaries, and if you haven't read it yet, Nidra Tawwab's, she has a book on boundaries. I don't remember the name title of it, but she's like a therapist. Yeah. I'm gonna send it to you if you haven't. Her book is. I haven't read the book yet, but I know she's amazing. Reading. I gotta go. Yeah, we're reading. We're educating. We're healing families. We're doing all of that.
Absolutely.
Who inspired you growing up? What were some women in your community who helped open up doors for you and your success? I know you mentioned your
Tamisha, my mentor.
Hey, Tamisha, again, shout out to you.
She inspired me the most as I took off with my journey of early childhood education or wanting to work with families in the community. But I can never not shout out the women in my family, my grandmothers, my mother. They were inspiring, and they probably didn't even feel like they were, because I mean, just as mothers, especially as Black mothers, we're just faced with so much throughout the day, and it's almost like, am I doing this right? And we may not always feel like we're doing it right, but our babies are watching. And I was definitely one of those babies that was watching. And so I did watch the women in my family. And like you said, I watched the things that I didn't want to do. And I watched the things that I wanted to take away. And I had a lot of takeaways. And I'm still learning. I'm still trying to learn how to be an inspiration to, you know, the young ladies that are coming up after me. But I definitely would say that all of my grandmothers, all of the women in my family who came before me, even if they were my peers, like even if they were close cousins of mine, they were still an inspiration to me. Because like you said, you look and it's like, okay, I don't want to do that, but I want to take that. I'm not going to take that. Maybe I'll take a little bit of that, but I'm going to take all of that. And then, like I said, when God placed my mentor into my life, like she just was really like, and she and I have had some really heartfelt conversations where even she is like, I don't know if I'm getting this right. And I'm still looking at her like, you're so perfect.
But I love that.
You're so perfect.
I love that with people that you admire, even they're honest and real enough and humble enough to be like, I'm not though. You know, like I'm doing my best and
I say that
I'm
all
better
the
than
time.
before. But like,
I say that all the time. There are a lot of men, women, babies come up to me. Well, I say babies, teenagers come up to me and they're like, you're so perfect. And I'm looking like, oh, if only you knew. If only you knew, but I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm doing something right. If you're saying that I'm an inspiration to you, let me humble myself and keep going and keep pushing on whatever it is that you see that I'm doing right.
Hey, look, that just means you're growing.
Absolutely.
You know, we don't just get here. We don't just wake up being great. Greatness doesn't just come to you. You got to work for it.
Absolutely. And it's hard work. It's hard work.
And it don't end. We have to keep working at it.
You have to keep going. You can't stop. The times get hard and it gets really rough, and like I said, sometimes I have this little shell and she cute, I got her decorated on the outside, but sometimes I just gotta crawl up in that thing.
I think we all have to. You can't be a shining star every day. And that's okay, because we all need to rest, go in that little shell if you need to, take a little break, come back and pop out when you're ready.
Absolutely.
Or else you're just gonna be walking around in survival mode, which I feel like I've been doing the last 2 years in this
I just seen a meme and it said little Rona is almost 3 years old.
Oh,
Happy birthday, little Rona. Like,
I don't want to go to this party no more.
Absolutely. Like, oof, is it over?
Yeah. But that's the thing, is we have to work with what we know didn't work in 2020 and what's going to work for you in 2022. So we are learning. Okay, let me share with you one of my favorite moments with Crystal.
Oh, God.
I'm going back to 8th grade. We're in Miss White's class. And we would listen to Lauryn Hill's album. You remember? And we would sing
Miss Education of Lauryn Hill.
We would sing the whole album, and our classmates would come and just sit in front of us, and we would just sing like it ain't nothing to do in class. And it would just be like, I have those fond memories of you. But going back to that little girl in the 8th grade, knowing everything that you know and everything that you've been through, do you remember who she was? And if you do, what would you say to her? What would you tell that 8th grade Crystal?
8th grade Crystal. You haven't changed much. You still get a little nervous. You still get a little shy being in public spaces and sharing your voice. But you will grow. You'll grow and you will become an inspiration that you never thought that you would become. You will become an amazing mother. You will become an amazing daughter, because at that time you was just a little bit wild. And you thought that your parents didn't know nothing.
Didn't we all?
You was a little bit wild in 8th grade, just a little bit wild. Your mouth was, honey.
So what advice would you give that little girl?
I'm telling this little girl right now.
Look her in the camera,
watch your mouth. Listen to your parents, because one day you will be a parent, and you will be a parent to an 8th grade little girl just like you. And you will then realize the challenges, the challenges of having a hormonal 8th grade little girl. But don't give up. Like, you have dreams, you have aspirations, your dreams are big, and you will see most of them through.
I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah, I just want to
That's
take you
the
on a
first
little
time I ever
journey.
did that before.
I want to bring you back. 'Cause when I think of you, you bring me back to those memories of us just chilling in class and just being silly and at John R. Williams and just, you know, not worrying. Having an
not a worry
attitude
in
with
the
adults and just
world.
being our spicy ass selves.
Super spicy. Like, where did we get
You're like,
all
then when
that
you see kids,
spice
like, why you
from?
acting like that? Like, oh damn.
Right. Like, that was me? No.
That was.
I legit
would
look
never.
at some of these kids like, that was not me. I don't care.
No,
Like,
some of these
I know
kids,
my
I don't
mouth-
identify. Yeah, no, we had moments, but no.
My mouth was,
Yeah, you still
my
had.
mouth and my facial
you still have
expressions.
respect.
I'm still working on those. I'm 33 years old. I'm still working on my mouth and my facial expressions. I swear I've gotten better.
I feel you, because I would get in trouble. Just think it, don't say it.
Just think it.
Just,
And don't
you're
even let
allowed.
your face, like, just.
That's hard. That's the hard part. I gotta turn off my camera on Zoom like this bitch. Like.
Oh my gosh, it's a work. I'm a work in progress, y'all. I'm a work in progress. I'm a daily
all
work in
are.
progress. Like, I can never not stop working on myself.
So I did a little snooping on your Instagram or whatever.
Oh shoot.
And I know I wasn't invited to your wedding because we weren't really connected like that at the time.
Shoot.
But okay, so I read on your IG that beyond the ass clapping and baby music, you wanted to dance to NSYNC at your wedding. And I want to know, did you dance to NSYNC at your wedding? You didn't?
I didn't.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna have to.
I brought you all the way back to find out.
You did.
That's our era.
That is.
I love NSYNC.
And
I
it's
still
always
love
NSYNC over Blackstreet.
That's
Sorry.
right.
I mean,
Thank you.
Backstreet Boys. NSYNC over Backstreet.
That's right. But you said you wanted to dance at your wedding to, do you remember what song it was? It was God Must Have Spent a Little More Time on You.
God must have spent a little more time on you. On you.
Yes.
Yeah,
That would have been so beautiful. Whenever you do a renewal or anything like that,
I have to do it at my vow renewal. Listen,
Look.
God must have spent a little bit more time on you at my vow renewal.
There you
Okay.
go. Are there any local small business, black business you want to show love, support, shout out to right now?
Absolutely.
Who should we be
So
checking out? Who should we support?
I want to give love and shout out to all of my sisters in the cohort, in the Black Birth Workers cohort alongside of me. So that's Khadijah Fox with Divine Maternal Services. That's Diamond Haynes with Next Level Doula Support. That's Carisha Boyd. That's Tamisha Valverde. That's Erica Dorsey, and all of the Black birth workers here in San Joaquin County that aren't really recognized just yet. But we're making a way and we're making strides, and we are making sure that we are going to make a difference in Black birth work and maternal health here in San Joaquin County. On top of that, shout out to yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Man, making strides in our Asian community, which I always knew you would. Like, we go back to talking about 8th grade. I always knew that you would make a difference in our community. Like,
Oh,
you're
thank
just
you.
you.
I don't know what I'm doing, but and we're here for solidarity. We're here for each other, you know.
Absolutely. So happy Black History Month.
Yes. I wanted to feature you, like I said, it's Black History Month. I wanted to reach out specifically to the Black women who are just killing it, who are doing something for something other than themselves, you know, for healing,
Gotta give back.
for empowering the communities and making sure the babies are good, making sure Black women are healthy and thriving and living life the way that they want to.
Mm-hmm.
But real quick, let's do some last minute, like, what do you call, fire round questions. What song is stuck in your head right now?
That song is stuck in my head. A little more time on you. On you, on you, on you.
We're taking it back.
Yeah.
What are you reading, or what's the last thing you read?
I am reading right now. I'm reading a book. It is called Pussy Prayers. And it is, oh my gosh, I wish I could remember the name of the author, but she is a Black woman. It's not all of what it says in the title. Like, you reading a book called Pussy Prayers, like, what you praying about? but it talks about some of the things that I mentioned earlier, like hormonal changes from a little girl on up, and how some of that is instilled in us actually in our mother's wombs. You don't even know about it. So it's womb care, it's like yoni care, it's understanding your yoni, aka your pussy, from a young age, and understanding how the hormones work and the development of it, and some of the intergenerational trauma that is passed through yoni after yoni after yoni from mothers having babies.
What is your favorite comfort food, or like something unhealthy that you normally wouldn't eat, but you're like, I gotta have it?
I just recently got a cheesecake for Valentine's Day, and I devoured most of it
What
by
kind of
myself.
cheesecake?
I had to share with my kids. Homemade.
Ooh, yes,
a
that's the
homemade
best.
cheesecake. I mean, I like the New York
And
style
Crystal
because
be
I like.
baking too,
Oh,
y'all.
here
She
we
be-
go.
I'm like,
Shout out
look.
CryCi's Mini Sweets.
Hey, I'm not trying to gain no more weight, but look, she is a businesswoman.
I'm not
over
trying to gain no
here.
more weight either. I'm trying to get this stuff off.
That's not
but
the way I'm trying to grow, okay?
You know,
That's not the growth I want.
But I did. I just had a cheesecake, and it had strawberries on top, and I had to be a good mom and share with my kids. But listen, I was tearing that thing down.
What is your drink of choice? It could be a juice, a smoothie, a liquor. What do you? Just don't tell me water.
Pepsi.
Pepsi,
Don't tell
okay.
you. Your water is
No, we
good.
need water,
We
but
do
I'm
need
just
water.
saying, like, don't tell me that's what you.
No, that's not. That's definitely not my go-to. It's Pepsi. My grandmother had me addicted to Pepsi when I was like 2. Terrible. Whiskey. I'm a whiskey girl.
Me too.
I've definitely been into Jameson and ginger beer.
Yes. Squeeze a lime, blow mint.
That's all you need. Come on, mule.
What are you
There.
watching right now? What's entertaining?
Euphoria.
Okay, I haven't seen it, but tell me. Yes.
I look at that show in many different aspects, and I'm like, woo. I pray that the Lord continues to guide me through parenting, because I don't want my kids to be fucked up.
Hey, we're all a little fucked up.
A little bit, but this show.
Thank you for sharing all that. I had
Thank
fun
you.
interviewing
This was
you.
amazing.
Yes.
I was nervous at first, but this was fun.
We should have made some mules next time. We're gonna make some mules. We're gonna listen and sing.
Next time, for
Yes.
real.
Until then, can you share with everyone where can they find you and your work?
You can find me on social media, mostly Instagram, CryCi, CryCi _the _doula. So it's CryCi the Doula on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok and Twitter as well. So CryCi the Doula.
Follow her,
That's
y'all.
me.
We'll leave links below.